Luis Diaz or Darwin Núñez, which one to go for? Welcome to the Gianni YouTube show. Hope you guys are well. This is my team selection video for game week 33, but it's also the team selection for world number 1. We're going to hear from him in just a bit, but before we do, let's quickly have a look at my team, shall we? So look, state of play, 0.8 in the bank, 1 free transfer, 58k in the world. It's all right. Not the best game week last time out by any stretch of the imagination. Small red arrow. But looking forward, as always, despite having a few flags, I'm feeling fairly optimistic. So look, let's talk through my team. We're going to see some data and then we're going to see what the world number 1 is doing. Yeah, that's right. He's going to be showing his team on this channel. Very excited for that in the next couple of minutes. So look, first and foremost, my team, decision to make in goal. Do I go Dubravka or Neto? I'm not sure yet at the moment. I've got Neto in there. Gabriel, Aït-Nouri and Bradley. I'm hoping for Bradley and Aït-Nouri starts. Could be squeaky bum time over these guys. And then the midfield of Salah, Foden, Son, Palmer, Saka. Well, look, Foden's now a huge worry for me. We'll speak about him later. Potentially even Saka is. And then Haaland and Solanke up front. It looks good if they all play. Now, first thing to address is Man City playing the early kickoff. I'm sure, will get team leaks. And with that, we might hear that a Foden or a Haaland isn't playing. And if that's the case, they're definitely vulnerable to be sold. They're definitely vulnerable. Now, I mentioned at the top of the show, Diaz or Darwin. Well, yeah. If I'm selling Haaland, I'm going Darwin. If I'm selling Foden, I think I'm going Diaz. I personally can't see Haaland missing out. Like, he's fit. He's had a rest. 8 days between Real Madrid fixtures. I think Haaland will start. Foden, on the other hand, we know he's got a knock. We know he didn't look too comfortable. But we know it's been sort of cast over with, yeah, it was fine, it was just a knock. But he was shaking his head, going off at the Bernabeu. I don't think he's going to start, but let's see. The likes of Doku and De Bruyne, by the way, for 1 week punt, I think are absolutely brilliant this week. But look, if I'm selling Foden this week, and that'll be if we hear team news, then it's going to be, as I mentioned, for Luis Diaz and likewise Haaland for Darwin. So shall we just look at some data here from Fantasy Football Scout? Because look, I've got to make this decision either this week or next. It's Diaz or it's Darwin or it's Diaz, right? I'm making either that move game week 33 or in game week 34. I definitely want Liverpool for the double game weeks. Palace up next and then a good looking double game week, despite being 2 away games. And this is why we want Liverpool. The last 4 matches, check out the attempts. By the way, all season long, they're top of the charts for attempts. They've got more attempts than any other team by a country mile. But in the last 4, it's an even bigger gap. 106 attempts, 16 big chances and only 8 goals. That 8 goals from 16 big chances is quite poor by Liverpool standards, right? They're only scoring 50% of their big chances. Chelsea, second best for attempts, 79. Then it's Fulham. Man City in 4th, you might be quite surprised to see, down in 65. And then it's Newcastle and Spurs complete in the top 6. No Arsenal in there, it's worth noting. For big chances, Liverpool are top. For attempts, they're top by a country mile. I need to invest in Liverpool attacks sooner rather than later. But is it Darwin or Diaz? Well, look, let's compare the numbers. Scout members area tells me that it's Diaz that has the better underlyings. Really surprised because we always look at Darwin and go, his XG's there, but his output's not. Well, at the moment, his XG's good, but not amazing. Luis Diaz clocked 1.77 versus Darwin's 1.27 in the last 4 game weeks. XA, Luis Diaz higher again by 0.96 to 0.66. They both actually got 1 assist. Goal attempts, Darwin edges it 14 to 13, and penalty area touches, Diaz edges it. There's little between them, but when you consider one's a midfielder, one's a forward, when you consider Diaz gets way more minutes, like you look at the last 10 game weeks, I think he's played 90 in 7 of them. And when he comes off, it's like the 82nd minute or the 88th minute. Darwin, on the other hand, gets hooked a lot around the hour mark to 70 minutes when he starts, and even the starts are less nailed. Remember, Jota is back in the mixer now as well. Take that into account with both these guys. Like Jota's back, could eat into both their minutes, but you would think Darwin always a little bit more vulnerable for minutes. Look, I still might go Darwin. I think there's huge upside there, but Diaz definitely needs our attention. So when I look at my team this week, I would like to be able to roll. Make no doubt about it. My preferred transfer this week is to roll. Of course it is, right? I want to go into double game week 34 with 2 free transfers. I want Ait-Nouri to be fit versus Nottingham Forest. And I certainly want Foden to be fit for Luton. Like, that's a real kick in the teeth knowing Foden's had his rest. Apologies, by the way. That was one of my channel members from the WhatsApp group. If you want to join and become a member, you can. Just click the word join below. Loads of benefits, including extra videos to being a member, including joining the WhatsApp group if you're an Ultras member. So hopefully see a few of you on the other side. Where was I? Yeah. Foden kicking the teeth. Ait-Nouri flagged. It's not looking great. I do think Haaland will be fine. They are my 3 kind of red flaggy areas. I should put Saka in the mix. Like, Saka was limping at the end of the game. I'm sure he'll be fine, but at the same time, we've seen he is clearly nursing an ongoing issue there, Saka. Villa is a big game though for Arsenal. That's a potential banana skin. They really don't want to rest Saka in that football match. So let's see if Saka's all right. And again, we have 8 days between the Bayern Munich games, so maybe we're fine there. So the big decisions to make are, if I don't think any of these guys are going to play, who do I transfer out or in? Well, Diaz for a midfielder, Darwin for an attacker. And if I go for a defender, then maybe the option is just to go Ait-Nouri leaves the team if he's injured. But I think there's a good chance he'll play. Gary O'Neill is one of those managers that will tell us. So press conferences are key on Friday. Training ground photos are key on Friday. Saturday team news, of course, as always, is going to be key. So look, I'll tweet and I'll put on Instagram what I'm going to be doing. I'm going to be on Sky Sports News Saturday morning, just before the deadline. So that's going to be chaos, but fun chaos. So hopefully we'll see a few of you there. Guys, forget about my team. I think it's time now to see the best FPL team in the world right now. Yeah, that's right. Tom is a world number 1, and he spoke to me earlier this week to have a look at how he's shaping up, not only for this week, but for the next couple of game weeks. Tom, thank you so much for joining us and sharing your team. We're not going to go too much in terms of giving away your plans for the rest of the season per se, because everyone's watching you now. You're world number 1. So firstly, how do you feel about that, and how are things going?
It's quite strange. Especially being so quiet on Twitter for a while now, all of a sudden, everyone sees what I'm doing. And my transfers this week just gone were they could have gone better. Everyone can see it. Everyone sees you good, everyone sees you bad. But at least I'm still first. That's the most important thing.
Very much so, mate. It's a huge couple of weeks. I mean, let's have a look at your team then in detail. The transfers you spoke about, you bought in Wolves players. Am I right in thinking you sold Saka, but Sarabia came in? You've got Ait-Nouri in place. Well set for the double. Just for context, am I right in thinking you've got your bench boost and wildcard remaining? They're the 2 chips we've got in play. And in terms of money in the bank, is there any? I mean, selling Saka, I guess you've got...
I did that. That was an exact move that I did last week. So
yeah,
I've got nothing to help at the minute.
Yeah, okay. So who else did you bring in last week then? You sold Saka. Oh, you bought Haaland back, of course. Yeah. Okay, no, I completely see that. So before we look at your plans, let's just go through your team. So we have the combinations of Areola and Leno in goal. We've got Ait-Nouri, Virgil van Dijk, Gabriel, with Zabani and Doherty as bench players at the back. The midfield is kind of template without Saka. So you've got Salah, Son, Palmer, Foden, but then Sarabia in there now. By selling Saka, you're able to accommodate a front 3 of Haaland, but Darwin and Solanke. Tom, you were just telling me off air, like some of the players that you feel are your differentials, because you've been looking at the other 99 managers in the top 100, right? You know their teams off the back of your hand. So tell us who the players that are for you in the top 100, your differentials, if you like, the ones you kind of need to do well to sustain world number 1.
Well, it was Son's the big one. That's the reason why I kept him for the Forest game and got rid of Saka. I wanted that fixture in particular, and he could have. He was close to scoring at the end, but at that point in the game, it was like whatever point Son got me, it was a gain on everyone. So it was a good position to be in, and now it feels a bit like suicide with Saka going out the other week, because obviously he scored. I wasn't sure if he'd have played that game, but you know what Arteta's like, he keeps hinting that he's going to miss, and then he plays every time anyway.
So he's the one that can hurt you the most, Saka.
Yeah. 100%.
And who are the players that you think will help you the most then in terms of differentials?
Well, it's different because a lot at the top of the table, quite a lot of the players that I've got are in most of the teams. So there's a few. Everyone's got triple Liverpool pretty much.
Yeah.
And everyone's got triple Arsenal, and that hurts me every single week.
You need Arsenal to concede then pretty much every
Yeah.
game, don't you? Even though you've got Gabriel. Yeah.
It doesn't look like they are, do they? So I've got to try and negotiate that. That's in my thinking. I can't go without those Arsenal for a while. I mean, I've had Saka all season. This is the only week that I got rid of him, and he went and scored. So it feels that hurts my rank more than anything. And it was definitely him versus Son. And Foden's another good one. A lot of people, because there's a lot of players that everyone wants in the team. There's a lot of these big hitters, but no one can fit them all in. So there's always going to be someone that you've not got. There's always going to be, like a Son or someone that you're going to have to sacrifice. And it seems that a lot of the top 100 have sacrificed Son. So that's one of the reasons why I kept him in, to give me that little advantage. So
that little
it's
edge.
now deciding whether or not I want to keep that, or for the Newcastle game, or decide whether or not I want to be safe and sorry. It's a decision at the minute. How different or how similar do I want my team to be to everyone else's?
Yeah, and you can tell. Look, we're not going to go into detail of when you're using your chips because I don't want to give too much away. But I think it's probably fairly obvious looking at your team. You're heading towards getting out as many doublers as you can in 34, and you're buying players that played twice in 34. So I guess your transfers are targeting teams, as we've just seen with your Wolves players coming in. Ideally, those that are doubling in 34. You have your wild card and then you have your bench boost. Perhaps that will be used later in the season. But in terms of your gains, Van Dijk's a real differential. Like, you could have gone with that money to a Ben White or a Saliba, but you have Van Dijk. You kind of live up. I've got Bradley, so I feel your pain. Like, they're just conceding goals, aren't they? They're not keeping cleans. What you really need in that double is either clean sheets to match Arsenal's, or ideally your Van Dijk's in your team for goal threat. You need a Van Dijk bullet header, don't you?
Well, I'd say that, but they've all got Van Dijk. It's another one of them. It's strange how the ownership in the top 10,000 difference is different to the top, say, 20.
Yeah,
because
okay.
those, obviously, the numbers don't reflect the top 20. They reflect a bigger amount of people, but it's kind of surprising to me how many people have got them exact 3 Liverpool players that I've got, and it's just kind of it means nothing to me these days, and it's annoying because I've had them in for a bit, and it's you're all trying to outdo each other, with the transfers. You're trying to be a step ahead, you're trying to get these players in, and when everyone's got them in, it's like, right, great. So I'm going to try and figure out who's my next little go-ahead player is going to be, and it's hard because there's only a certain amount out there. There's a lot of standout picks, and a lot of the teams have got a lot of standout picks. So,
I mean, you've got one in Foden, haven't you? That is your big. I mean, ownership for Foden in the top 10 or even in the top 100 must be less than 50%, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
So for you, when Foden hauls, it's massive, which we've recently seen with his benching against Palace. I guess we look ahead to the Luton game and go, yeah, I'm pretty confident about a start then. The Real Madrid games are 8 days apart. Luton sandwiched in the middle. We should be good for Foden minutes there, especially if De Bruyne is rested and we get a central Foden, which is what we got against Aston Villa. You must be very excited about the combination of Haaland and Foden, which is a really nice differential combination now for you.
Yeah, that's why I was so keen to get Haaland in this week. I was all set on, refraining from buying him for another week, and it was just a combination of the Watkins and Saka potential injury news. I didn't necessarily want to risk that without Haaland, and that's what made my decision. And then it didn't look great when they both played and both got double figures. So I've just got to forget it now and think I've got these double City players. I've got the Foden and Haaland combination for Luton at home, and hopefully they'll both play, and that'll be one of my points makers, hopefully.
Yeah, and the moment we've got the captaincy armband on Leno and the vice on Virgil, you're not going to do that, but we're not going to say necessarily who you are going to captain because we don't want to give too much away to your competitors. But the vast majority this week will go Haaland. Of course they will. It's Haaland versus Luton. It's
Haaland, Salah, isn't it? It's one of the. Ideally, it's probably going to be one of them two for most people.
Yeah,
and it all depends on how I'm feeling towards the end of the week, which one I fancy the most. But yeah, it's always difficult when it's like this because imagine you captain Haaland and he doesn't start, but then comes on for 1 point, and then Salah goes and starts, which he normally does, and gets 2 goals against Palace. So I think I'll look into it more to see if it looks like Haaland's going to play, which I think he will. It's just
Yeah.
There's a lot of choices in the captaincy which I like to think are safe choices, and I think you'd be a bit foolish to go against Haaland at home to Luton if you knew he was playing.
Yeah, exactly. No, I hear that. Okay, what about plans moving forward? Teams, we know Dublin 34, and you're going to clearly be very well set for game week 34 without the use of a chip if that's the direction you go in. But many now wildcarding 35 because we have the doubles of Chelsea and Spurs. And it's wildcarding late in the season, which isn't necessarily optimal, but it's something many are doing. I'll be wildcarding in 35, and with a look at your team, you'll be going in a similar direction. But is there teams you've got your eye on for that, say 37, for example? We have obviously the likes of City and Spurs and Chelsea doubling, but Newcastle and Man United too. Any particular teams or players you're fond of? Obviously, so much can change, but ones you're eyeing up?
Yeah, you're not going to be able to just get full teams of all the best players. So you're going to have to look a bit, small and look at those niche players that no one's really got in some of the other teams like Newcastle and United and Brighton, I think. But no, I think especially with the Spurs and Chelsea news, in 35, there's not many good assets from those teams. If you think about it, defensively, they're both pretty poor. They don't keep clean sheets. And then there's the obvious ones. Everyone's going to have Son. Everyone's going to have Palmer. So it's trying to weigh up how many eggs you want to put in those baskets, for the Spurs and Chelsea, as opposed to just kind of sticking with the 37 lot and trying to build up for that. I've not really thought about it yet. I try not to think. Because obviously I've got a wild card, so that's part of my plans. It's pretty obvious that is going to be part of my plans for building up for that 37. So at the minute, my thinking is based off these next couple of weeks, and then trying to fit in a wild card to get myself ready for the end of the season. Obviously, people say wild card at the end of the season is not a great strategy, but if your team is good enough after Christmas, then I've never felt the need to use it. You know what I mean? So it's only worth using if you actually need it. And now I've still got it in my back pocket. I've always liked it, having it as like an emergency option, just in case things happen to my team. I get loads of injuries in a week, but now I've still got it. It's quite a useful strategy in order to play at the end of the season.
Great to get Tom's insight. Do go and follow him on Twitter, and I'm sure he'll be back on this channel keeping you up to date with his progress this season. Fingers crossed he goes and lifts the trophy. That would be amazing. FPL challenge this week. How are we shaping up? Not too sure about the rule, the yellow card and red card thing. Doesn't really matter. It's just a free hit for a week. So I'm forgetting the rule, and I'm going for who's going to get most points and what teams am I stacking up on. As always, I'm going with the stacking. I'm going big on Man City attack. I'm going big on Liverpool. I think Brentford and Brighton are worth considering as some nice differentials this week. So look, this hopefully helps you for your actual FPL team. As always, every week, it's the players I like. So look, the likes of Doku and De Bruyne, I think they'll start. Alvarez, Haaland, if he starts, great. You remember you do get the option of substitutions in this game. If we hear they're not on the starting lineup in that hour, you can make those transfers out. So look, few options there. I've got Lewis. I've got big on Liverpool still. It's Virgil. It's Luis Diaz. It's Darwin. I've gone differential without Salah. Budget's a bit of an issue with De Bruyne and Haaland in there. Arsenal defence with Raya. Yeah, nice combination. I hope Zinchenko starts. And then look, Brighton could be a little bit of fun. I always like a Dingra. Always passes the eye test. So look, I am playing challenge this week. And of course, in the description to this video, there is, of course, as always, a link to join. We haven't spoken much about captaincy. I just assumed in the actual FPL game, it was a bit of a non-event that I'd be going Haaland. If I'm not going Haaland with captaincy, you go to your other Man City player, right? So Foden would be my captain. But if neither was starting, who would be my captain? Well, I think it's pretty straightforward. Some might look at a Palmer versus Everton or a Son versus Newcastle. Saka's been reliable this season. He plays Villa. But for me, I know he's out of form, but Salah versus Crystal Palace at Anfield is the go-to captaincy option outside of Man City this week. So Salah will likely be my captain if Haaland isn't going to play. In the challenge game, look, if you own De Bruyne this week, captain him. I said that last week. When we knew he was starting, I tweeted saying, if you own De Bruyne, captain him. He went mad. Sickness at the Bernabeu, I think he'll be fine. I did wonder if he's got like a bug, then surely he wouldn't be with the team. And he was with the team, like on the bench. So didn't warm up, sick in the changing room. I'm sure he's going to be fine. Maybe it was food poisoning. I don't know. If you've enjoyed today's show, do show your support by hitting that like button. Please, please, please consider subscribing to the channel as well. I look forward to seeing your comments. I'll reply to all the comments, especially channel members, first and foremost. Guys, thank you for watching as always. Make sure you go and follow Tom, world number 1 on Twitter. He's starting to make content as well. And I will see you all very soon. Take care.